Okay, so in this example here, we're going to be talking about how to simplify rational expressions, and in particular, when you're dealing with addition and subtraction. Now, addition and subtraction can be a little more challenging than multiplication and division because you have to get a common denominator when you're doing addition and subtraction. So with that being said, let's take a look at our first example here. How do I combine these two fractions here? And remember, even though you have a lot going on here, this is technically a fraction and this is technically a fraction. All right, we often refer to this as a rational expression because we have a combination of variables and numbers, right? But in the end, it is just a fraction. So you go back to your same rules when you're combining fractions. You have to get a common denominator. So when you're simplifying down rational expressions, my recommendation to you, always try to factor the denominator because it could make the problem easier. So for example, on my first term here, 3 over 2a, I'm just going to write it as 3 over 2a because there is nothing there I can factor on my denominator, okay? Then I write plus, and I have 6 over. Now on this denominator here, I can factor out a 4. I can also factor out an a. So I'm going to factor out a 4a. And then in parentheses, I'll have a plus 1, okay? So you can see here that the whole thing is completely factored. How do I get a common denominator now? So looking at what I have here, I have a 2a and then I have a 4a times a plus 1. You can see that this one here doesn't have as much, right? So we're trying to match that 4a times a plus 1. So to do that, I'm going to have to multiply this fraction here by 2 and a plus 1. So for example, I'm going to write the following. I'm going to have 2 and I'm going to multiply by a plus 1. And again, just off to the side here, if you distribute this 2 inside, you get 2a plus 2. And so what you're actually doing here is you're doing 2a plus 2 times this 2a. That will give you the 4a squared plus 4a. Which we have right here, okay? It looks a little bit different because we factored it out down here, okay? But I'm going to multiply again both the bottom and the top by 2 times a plus 1. That will give me the common denominator that I need. So let me go ahead and do that. So doing it up top as well, I get 2 times a plus 1. Okay, so now I'm going to write it all underneath the same common denominator, which is 4a times a plus 1, okay? So I get 4a and then a plus 1, okay? And then I have to take care of this part here. So there's not a right or wrong way how you do it. You can go ahead and distribute the 2 inside here and then multiply everything by 3. That's fine. That's the way I'm going to do it. So for example, 2 times a is 2a. And then 2 times 1 is 2. And then I have to distribute this 3 here to both of my terms up here, right? That's what's actually going on. So I'm going to do 3 times 2a. That will give me 6a. So I'm going to write 6a here. And then 3 times 2 will give me 6, plus 6. Okay, that's done. Then plus, I have a plus, right? So plus 6. So finally, I get 6a plus 12 all over 4a. And then in parentheses, a plus 1. All right, is there anything else I can do here? Can I keep simplifying it down? Well, look at your numerator. You can factor out a 6. If I factor out a 6, what happens? I get 6, and then in parentheses, I get a plus 2, and then on my denominator, I have 4a and a plus 1. Is there anything else I can do here? Well, look at my coefficients. I can reduce these guys right here, 6 and 4. I know that 2 will go into 6 3 times, and 2 will go into 4 2 times. And after I do that, I am done with the problem. So our final answer here, again, 2 will go into 6 3 times. So I'm going to write 3. And then I still have the a plus 2. Okay. All over. 2 will go into 4 2 times. So I get 2. And I still have that a there. And then it's a plus 1 in parentheses. Okay. And so there's nothing else here that is going to simplify down. I'm done. This is your final answer right here, completely simplified down. All right, so I want to be very clear here. There's many different ways in which you can do this problem. And what you'll see as we keep doing these problems, sometimes we're just going to multiply these denominators to get a common denominator. Okay, that's going to happen in the next problem. because you'll see that by factoring out, it's not going to help you. And if by factoring out, it doesn't help you, you're going to have to multiply those denominators together, and that will help you get the common denominator that you need. So we're going to do that in the next problem. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. So here's our next problem, and I kind of already gave it away that factoring won't really help you, but we're going to go ahead and factor anyways. That way we can see what's going to happen. So I'm going to have here 2 over a, and on my denominator, I can factor out a 3 and also an a. Okay, so I get 3a, and then in parentheses, I'm going to have a, and then I'll have minus 2. Okay, and so on my other term, I just have plus 5 all over 2. And you can see here, I don't really have anything in common. Like I have a 2 here, and then I have this 3a and a minus 2. There's nothing that I can really multiply this term by that can give me that same common denominator. So if you ever run into an issue like this, you just go to your default, which is multiplying the denominators together. And this will work every single time. So technically, you can use this method every single time. It just may be more work than factoring out and finding that one term that you have to multiply by to make it work out. But again, this method I'm about to show you will work every single time, so keep that in mind. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all of this here. All right. And it's really simple. Just like you would combine a fraction if you're adding or subtracting, to get a common denominator, all we have to do is multiply our denominators together. So in other words, I'm going to have in my denominator 2 times 3a squared minus 6a, just like that, okay? And then to take care of your numerators, you're simply going to be cross multiplying. That's how it works out. So in other words, you say to yourself, what did I multiply this part here by in order to get my common denominator down here? Well, you multiplied by 2, right? So you can see what's going to end up happening. You're essentially cross multiplying, right? That's kind of how it works. You're doing 2a times 2, that will give you 4a. So I'm going to go ahead and write that right here. I get 4a. And then again, you can say to yourself, what did I multiply this one by to get this common denominator down here? Well, I multiplied by 3a squared minus 6a. Or in other words, you're going to be multiplying it by 5 or cross multiplying it. You can look at it like that. So when you rewrite it, it's going to be plus 5 times 3a squared minus 6a. Okay, just like that. And now we have to work on simplifying it down. Now, this is really interesting because I have that same factor right here. I have 3a squared minus 6a and 3a squared minus 6a. A common mistake I see a lot, students will go ahead and try to cancel these guys out right here, okay? That's not going to work. It's not going to work because you have 2 terms on your numerator. I have a term here, and technically this whole part here is one term, okay? You have 2 terms. Remember, terms are separated by addition and subtraction. So I have 2 on the top, and on the bottom, I do have 1, okay? So what you have to remember, if you want to cancel out factors, you have to have a 1-to-1 ratio, meaning you have to have 1 term on the top and 1 term on the bottom. Okay, that's how it has to work out. So in this case here, I can't start canceling anything out. But what I can do, I can start simplifying down the numerator. So I'm going to end up distributing this 5 and see what happens. So when I do that, I'm going to write it down here. I get 4a. And then if I distribute the 5, I get plus 15a squared. And then one more time, I'll do 5 times the negative 6a. I get negative 30a. Okay, there we go. And now I want to go ahead and combine like terms, which I have here and here. So 4a and a negative 30a, that's going to give you negative 26a. So I'm left with 15a squared minus 26a, okay, all over. Here I have 2, and I have 3a squared minus 6a. Okay. Is there anything else I can do here? Is there a greatest common factor I can pull out of that numerator? And it looks like I can pull out an a, okay? If I do that, I'm going to pull out an a. I'm left with 15a minus 26, right? On my denominator, is there anything I can factor out? Well, you could factor out a 3. You could also factor out an a. So if you factor out a 3a, remember, you're going to end up multiplying by this 2 here. Okay? So 2 times 3a will give you 6a. So I'm going to write here 6a. And then in parentheses, remember, you factored out a 3a, meaning you're going to be left with a minus 2. Okay? And now from here, will anything cancel out? Well, looking at it, I have an a here and an a here. And technically, I have one term on the top and one term on the bottom, meaning I can go ahead and start canceling out any factors that I see that are common. So I can go ahead and cancel out this a right here. Is there anything else I can do? And looking at the problem, it doesn't look like there's anything else I can do. So my final answer is going to be 15a minus 26 all over 6 times a minus 2. Okay? And that's it. Nothing else we can do there. And again, you could take this 6 if you want and distribute inside and write it as 6a minus 12. It doesn't matter. I'm going to leave it like this here. And that's done. All right, so that's completely simplified down. All right. So here's our next problem. And again, always see if you can factor the denominator. It could make it easier. So the first part, we're going to get 2x. And then when we factor that denominator, I can pull out a 3. I can also pull out an x. I'm going to pull out a 3x. And then I'll have x minus 3. Okay. And then minus 5 all over 3x. Can't do anything here. Okay. So this one works out nice because you can see I pretty much already have that denominator, right? If I look to the left, I have the 3x and then I have x minus 3, okay? Over here, I have the 3x. So all I have to do is multiply this fraction here, both top and bottom, by x minus 3 to get that common denominator, okay? So that's what I'm going to do. Get rid of this here. I'm going to multiply both bottom and top by x minus 3. And then we'll get it. So this one here, you did not have to multiply the denominators together. It's a little more straightforward. It's a bit easier, okay? So rewriting it, we get 2x on our numerator and then minus 5 times x minus 3 all over our common denominator, which is now going to be 3x and then x minus 3, okay? So again, be careful here. These factors of x minus 3 are not going to cancel out. You have 2 terms on your numerator and 1 term on your denominator. You need that 1-to-1 ratio, okay? And we're not there yet. So we have to go ahead and simplify down the numerator and then possibly get it down to 1 term, okay? So to do that, I'm going to take the negative 5 and I'm going to distribute inside parentheses here. When I do that, I get 2x and then I get negative 5x and then plus 15. Okay, all over 3x, and then x minus 3. Okay, so now combining those like terms, I have 2x minus 5x, I get negative 3x, and I'm going to go ahead and write that over here to the left-hand side. I get negative 3x plus 15 all over 3x, and then x minus 3. Is there anything else I can do here? Well, if I look at my numerator, I can factor that. I can pull out a negative 3. If I pull out a negative 3, what happens? I get a negative 3, and then in parentheses, I'll have x, and then minus 5. Okay? So that's factored. And then on my denominator, I have 3x, and then x minus 3. So now we have that 1-to-1 ratio where I have 1 term on the top and 1 term on the bottom. Can I possibly cancel anything out? Do I have anything in common? Well, x minus 5 and x minus 3, those factors aren't the same. That's not going to cancel out. But these 3's here, I can go ahead and cancel these out. It's just going to reduce down to 1. So these 3's will cancel. And now I'm left with my final answer, which is going to be negative, and then in parentheses, x minus 5 all over x, and then in parentheses, x minus 3. Okay, that's done. And there it is. So that's completely simplified down. Nothing else I can do there. So that is how you simplify down rational expressions when you're doing addition and subtraction. It is a bit tricky. Just remember, always try to factor the denominator because it could make it easier, okay? However, when in doubt, you could always just multiply the denominators together and that will always work out. Now, granted, it may be a little bit more work, but it will always work out. So that's it. I hope that you gained something from this video. I hope that you learned something. If the video did in fact help you, if you could just go ahead and give it a thumbs up, that would be greatly appreciated. Also, make sure you subscribe to this channel. That way you get more math videos in the future, and I'll see you in the next one.